The Indiana Fever signed 3 enforcers this season, including one of their newest players, to safeguard. Caitlin Clark simply remarked, "WNBA bullies beware," while staring directly into the camera. She wasn't kidding either. In her debut campaign, Clark was called for 17% of all egregious fouls in the WNBA. Take a moment to consider that number. It is neither a coincidence nor bad luck. Targeting is what that is. Then, during her sophomore year, she was out for extended periods due to injuries, and the league remained silent. Thus, the front office of the Indiana Fever ultimately came to the conclusion that enough was enough. Additionally, what they developed this offseason will result in those same WNBA. The Indiana Fever now have 3 enforcers in 2026, making bullies extremely uncomfortable. Sophie Cunningham, Tyasha Harris, and Maisha Hines-Allen. Do you believe Caitlin Clark will have better protection in 2026 season? Tell me in the comments section below.
We need more goon. We need a goon squad, okay? We already know a hit was sent out on Caitlin Clark. She was the most targeted player in the WNBA for the last 2 years. It's very, very obvious.
What are the chances that one player will eat 17% of all the food on every WNBA roster? The egregious fouls in a whole season. A power forward who doesn't bang in the paint every night. A rookie guard in her first season. Not an experienced player with a reputation for playing through contact. It's not a coincidence. There is a pattern there. Let's now discuss the definition of a flagrant foul. Thus, it's more than just a hard foul. Hard fouls are inevitable in any physical game, including basketball. When a referee observes a play and the contact crosses a line, officials call it a flagrant foul and determines that the foul was either excessive or unnecessary. That is, it didn't have to occur in that manner. Therefore, Clark's collection of them at a rate of 17% of the league's total revealed a particularly distinct aspect of the decisions made by veterans were creating when they performed her.
Caitlin Clark getting basically wrecked. This is one of the worst decisions that I have ever seen any league engage in. Caitlin Clark is the biggest draw for a team sport in my life relative to the audience that would be fans of the sport without her. Bigger than Michael Jordan was for the NBA, bigger than any NFL star has ever been. All of those sports were very popular before those athletes got there. Caitlin Clark is the golden goose. Every game she is dropping golden eggs.
And the WNBA took no action. There were no public announcements of penalties, suspensions, or press conferences where the league stated that they were keeping an eye on the matter. The discussion surrounding it was presented as rookies having to earn their stripes, which is essentially a courteous way of suggesting that everyone should relocate because the targeting was acceptable. Imagine this. June 2025 is the date. JC Sheldon pokes Clark directly as she's playing against the Connecticut Sun in the eye.
Here we go. They're trailing by 10. Keep an eye on her and JC Sheldon. Clark trying to back her down.
Clark is okay.
Sheldon fouls Clark, hitting her in the face. Clark is upset about that. Then everybody's upset about that. Marina Mabry comes in. She decks Clark, tempers flaring on both sides.
In a basketball game, an eye poke is not an accident. You don't unintentionally move your hand up into another player's face when making typical defensive contact. Sheldon's hand reaches into Clark's eye as she stands there. Then Marina Mabry enters and shoves Clark as well, causing the entire scenario to blow up. 2 different athletes, 1 incident, and Clark is the one taking it all in. The Mabry shove differs in character from a Sheldon poke, as such a shove is not typical of a play. You do that when you want the other person to experience it and think about it afterwards if it's a message. It's not a basketball game.
They are trying to strangle the golden goose to death. It's one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. Everyone in the league seems to hate the fact that Caitlin Clark is making the league relevant.
Clark became the most watched player in WNBA history, which contributed to the attention she received. Nearly instantly, a result. Each veteran on every squad had something to demonstrate when she took the court. And some of them chose to physically demonstrate it rather than merely compete. Her rookie's physical wear. When 2025 began, the season didn't start over. IT made matters worse, and her sophomore year's injury absences are directly related to returning to what her body took in throughout the first year.
That's all I see. They try so long to get respect for women's basketball, and then they treat it like a junior high school girl's locker room. Junior high school girl antics on the court.
Throughout both seasons, the Fever strategy was primarily reactive, bringing in players who could score but were ineffective when. Around Clark, things became difficult, and it became impossible to overlook that gap in roster composition by the end of year 2. The majority of Fever fans are familiar with Cunningham as the player who consistently shot 43.2% from three in 2025, and that shooting proficiency is important. However, that's not the reason the Fever prioritized re-signing her before. They even considered alternative possibilities. Let's discuss Cunningham's true contributions, since the shooting is almost less important than everything else she places on the ground.
Definitely the W, especially if Sophie Cunningham is going to continue to fight people for messing with Caitlin Clark, because it feels like Caitlin Clark is going to get treated in a certain way in this league for a long time. She's not a rookie anymore. Okay? She's already proved herself. She's won. And then there were some, ladies last night that were trying to go a little physical.
Cunningham, who has a reputation for not being taken lightly, worked for the Phoenix Mercury building for many years. Because she will enter your area right away and quickly inflict a great deal of discomfort. That is a certain type of player. Worth that is never shown in a box score, and the majority of front offices don't realize it until they watch as their star player is thrown around and jabbed in the eye as the bench does nothing.
Is she like an enforcer?
Yeah, it feels like she was potentially brought in like a James Johnson type role for Tyrese Halliburton. And it's like, thank God. I think this is a good play, not a bad play.
You always need some, I don't know if they still call them, you need some goons on your team, for sure. Especially when you have a star like that. Yeah, when you have the golden goose, just like MJ was, when you had his teammates who were kind of protecting the times when the dirtbag Detroit Pistons had those MJ rules. So this is what the Grace is going to go through. Candace Parker kind of went through this. She came to the league. But yeah, Caitlin Clark's going to continue to deal with it. And, she's a dog.
This is when things start to get interesting. At the age of 6, Cunningham obtained a black belt in Taekwondo. Old, and she has continued that training ever since. Thus, when she confronts someone on a basketball court, it goes beyond adrenaline and a competitive urge. She has essentially dedicated her entire life to understanding how to maintain her composure throughout a physical altercation. Return to the poke in Sheldon's eye. Cunningham was already taking action, putting himself in Clark's way and making it obvious to everyone that there would be repercussions for that type of play on that floor. The Fever observed that reaction. She knew exactly what she would contribute to a team that was focused on keeping Clark on the court and healthy. As soon as it occurred,
Sophie commits a hard foul on JC Sheldon. Again, as JC Sheldon is going up for a layup, Sophie bear hugs her and takes her to the ground. What I will say is Sophie did not grab her and throw her to the ground. She didn't body slam her. She didn't do anything, in my personal opinion. Maybe I'm biased here, but I'm going to give you guys my straight up honest opinion on this.
The similar procedure was given to the Mabry body check. Cunningham didn't wait to hear the referee's call or stay back and observe the coach's desires. She made sure Mabry was aware of her loudness and physical posture. The play was not overlooked, though not as quickly. The other members of the Fever bench also responded, and the front office spent exactly that time between her reaction and everyone else's, trying to close for the entire offseason. In addition to all of that, she can play basketball, right? When Clark draws the double team, she hits threes, guards several places, and provides Kelsey Mitchell with a true perimeter running partner who can stretch a defense without having the ball in her hands. Cunningham's moniker from Trace Letches. It's more than just a cute label. Clark and Lexi Hull.it highlights 3 individuals who are all proficient shooters so that you actually cannot let go of any of them. Additionally, Cunningham's comeback guarantees that floor spacing until 2026.
Sophie Cunningham's return to Indiana provides the Fever a key boost at guard depth, bringing back one of the league's premier shooters and instant momentum swingers in the WNBA. Due to injuries, Cunningham was never able to fully display what she was capable of in year 1 in Indiana. 2 May ankle injuries kept her from getting off to the start she wanted. And then, quite simply, she morphed into perhaps the league's best shooter over more than a month's time.
She is playing in 2026 because she signed a one-year contract rather than the multi-year one she had publicly expressed desiring. With each and every game determining her future contract, the majority of the discussion stopped when the Fever signed Myisha Hines-Allen. Based on her all-WNBA resume and her 2019 championship ring with the Washington Mystics, which are legitimate credentials. However, the front desk was not putting together a highlight reel. They were replenishing a front court that had spent 2 seasons receiving. Forwards who assumed Indiana wouldn't resist outmuscled them physically.
Quite a bit of foul trouble in this half. To put it into perspective, Mabry has 3, Naya Rivers has 3 fouls, Rhea Hartley has 3 fouls.
That's your wing depth.
Ugh.
Hines-Allen is built for contact and is 6 feet 2 inches tall. In traffic, she crashes boards and watches over larger players without retreating, and alongside Aaliyah Boston plays the kind of strong forward game that the Fever sorely needed, who is skilled yet unable to physically compete against elite front courts every night. You'll hear the same thing over and over again when you ask anyone in the league about Hines-Allen. She creates fear. She's a dog. Additionally, half of the league would vote for her without hesitation if you needed one player to serve as a bodyguard. This is when things become heated because Hines-Allen and Cunningham have previously squared off on the court, and no one gave up.
Sophie Cunningham tried to fight Myisha Hines-Allen. She tried to fight Myisha Hines-Allen. You do not, there are not that many people. You can see everyone else is trying to get as far away from this situation as possible. Everyone else. So she hits a 3, Myisha Hines-Allen fouls her, and then tries to step over. And then Sophie Cunningham grabs her leg. Nobody's going near Myisha Hines-Allen, but no, Sophie Cunningham will start the fight. The refs are trying to break it up. None of the Mercury players are going to go near Myisha Hines-Allen. They're scared. She's scared of bejesus out of them. Myisha Hines-Allen is one of the toughest players in this league. Sophie Cunningham going head to head straight with her.
Imagine 2 players who, when things become aggressive, actually don't back down and go straight after one another. And neither of them was blinking. The Fever decided they wanted both of those after witnessing that conversation. Players in the same uniform, as the level of competition doesn't go away when they become colleagues. Instead of competing with one another, it simply becomes focused on defending Clark. The 2019 Mystics are more than just a ring to be remembered and forgotten. The Washington squad engaged in physical play. They vigorously guarded the paint, and Hines-Allen used a front court that made opponents earn every glance in the vicinity of the basket. She is already familiar with the inner workings of a championship roster, because she is aware of the distinction between a team that merely speaks about competing and one that truly does.
Hines-Allen shaking her head like, it's hard to stop it when I turn that corner going to the basket.
Hines-Allen, yes! Hines-Allen count the bucket and the foul. To the second side for the sweet, smooth reversal.
Basically, Myisha Hines-Allen coming right into your living room.
Here's Hines-Allen. Count the basket! Tom Myisha's got a mismatch. Takes advantage of it. Count it!
It's okay that her scoring won't result in high numbers on the stat sheet because that isn't her job. When Clark finishes at the rim, or Mitchell kicks and drives. Instead of merely going through the motions, she sets displays that genuinely release individuals.